Disney's Magical Quest is a platform game trilogy released by Capcom from 1992 to 1995. The games star Mickey Mouse and then later on with Minnie Mouse as well as with Donald Duck respectively as they journey along strange worlds trying to defeat Pete, who happens to be the ruler of the worlds they come across in these three games. Why didn't they ever make more of these games? They apparently just stopped making more after making 3, and it seems like a very missed opportunity, since these games really had a touch of quality in them in terms of its game design, story, and overall gameplay. Despite never having finished playing any of these games, I've known about them very vaguely for as long as I could remember. It always just seemed to be the kind of memory that lived in your head rent-free. So a few weeks ago, I looked back on these games, and here's what I discovered about each of them. The Magical Quest starring Mickey Mouse. I finished this game just within an hour or so. It was a very quick game. It only had about 5 or 6 stages, called worlds. Each individual world or stage consists of 4 segments, much like that of the worlds in Super Mario Bros. You start out as the regular Mickey Mouse that everybody knows and loves, and once you progress through the game, you are given a new set of clothes to wear that will help you in dealing with the obstacles you'll face as the journey progresses. The game starts with Mickey and his pals playing a game of catch, while Pluto joins along very happily. Pluto suddenly runs off to one side, and eventually Mickey runs off as well, to go and find his pet dog. Mickey falls off a cliff, sending him to a very strange and mysterious land. You are greeted by a wise old sage, who tells you not to go any further to find your lost dog because the emperor of this land, Emperor Pete, seems to have dominion over this strange land, and that he most probably has Mickey's dog at this point already. Mickey goes on to say that he's not gonna stop looking for his pet dog, and the wise old sage eventually lets him pass through his small house. After managing to get to the next level, the wise old sage is there to greet you again, and gives you a sort of genie outfit that will grant you magical powers that you could use to fend off the strange creatures found in the strange lands. It also gives you the ability to breathe underwater for as long as you like. This ability is only convenient for one specific stage, and is never really utilized as much in the latter stages or worlds of the game. There's a segment in the game where you get to ride magic carpets that descend depending on where you're facing, similar to the magic carpet from Aladdin, which is also a Disney property. This would have been a better feature for the genie outfit, rather than the underwater breathing ability, but this kind of nitpicking is made irrelevant once you've successfully beaten this game. More on that later. The second outfit you get is that of a fireman outfit. It is made available to you once you've reached the 3rd level of the game. You are granted the ability to use a fire hose that you'll then use to shoot water towards enemies, and also for pushing blocks out of the way, which will also help you get to a certain spot that may or may not contain special items like coins, an extra heart, or items that will help you recharge your outfit's stamina bar. The fireman outfit, to me, was the most efficient outfit of the available 3, which leads us to the 3rd outfit, the mountain climbing gear, or as I like to call it, the Spider-Man ripoff. It literally allows Mickey to grab onto ledges or higher platforms, or just those awkwardly placed circular objects floating all around the place, and also the magical blocks provided by the wise old sage we saw from earlier. By the way, why does the old sage greet us only 2 times in the game? The first when we see him in that house back in the 1st level, and then when he gives us the magical turban. For a character who's made himself relevant to the first 2 levels of the game, providing you with the goal of the story and an item to help you progress in the story, he is never to be seen again within the next following stages. Why is that? Where did he go all of a sudden? Did he just decide to stay put at the 2nd world while Mickey tries to find his lost dog? Was he actually the one who placed that fireman outfit in that breakable glass in World 3 and conjured up the mountain climbing gear to Goofy so that he will give it to you once you get to the 4th level, since that outfit is clearly made for mouse-sized individuals? And why does Goofy moonwalk his way out once he's given you the 3rd outfit? That's just so weird. Once you get to Pete's castle, you go through several segments and fight off his henchmen. And once you've gotten yourself to the 4th segment of the last stage, you are greeted by Emperor Pete, who's fashioned himself a strange robe and is wearing a horned crown. And also he's got magical powers that he uses against you. If you use the genie outfit, you'll be able to damage him with the same kind of magical powers, and eventually defeat him. You find the lost dog Pluto, and he licks Mickey's face non-stop. Everything around them turns black, and Mickey eventually wakes up lying in his bed as Pluto continues to lick his face. Donald enters through the window and screams at Mickey so that he and Pluto could join him and Goofy for a game of catch. The game ends where it begins, in an open field with the silhouettes of Mickey, Donald, Goofy, and Pluto having fun playing catch. It makes you wonder about the whole story of the game. Will they play their game of catch in peace? Or was everything we saw from earlier a premonition to events that are yet to happen? Is this a never-ending cycle? A time loop where Mickey and his friends are trapped in? Is it safe to assume that the old sage was there to help Mickey escape his dream, or that the dream was that of the sage's own making? Was there ever a world that was conquered and corrupted by an all-powerful emperor named Pete? Or was it the sage playing tricks, hiding in the facade of Mickey's constant rival in reality? We may never know for sure, but the ending of the story leading up to the reset of the actual game gives us an answer that is otherwise hiding in plain sight, if we allow ourselves to take that as an actual answer to the question. Regardless of if we do or not, hitting the play button literally starts everything from the very beginning, and Mickey goes through that endless nightmare all over again. The Great Circus Mystery starring Mickey and Minnie. In the second game, you get to play as either Mickey or Minnie, or both with another player, since this game can be played on co-op mode. The game starts out with Mickey and Minnie on a bus as they travel to the circus at the edge of town where they are going to spend the day together in. Mickey and Minnie sees Goofy walk away from the circus as he tells them that everybody from the circus has gone missing. Mickey and Minnie go to the circus in order to find out what's really going on. As they arrive, they are greeted by circus-themed creatures, and posters of Pete are plastered on the walls of the circus tents everywhere they go. You find Donald as he scavenges inside this large circus crate. Once he jumps at the sound of your voice, the crate opens up and a bunch of Mickey blocks are sent flying out of it, as well as the first unlockable outfit called the Sweeper outfit, which allows either Mickey or Minnie to suck up certain enemies with a vacuum cleaner bundled with the outfit. The enemies turn into coins, which you could then use for purchasing items in shops later on. The boss in the first level is a lion, whose mane detaches itself from the lion's head, propelling towards every direction to deal damage to you. You defeat the lion, and the curtains fall down to congratulate you for completing the level. When you get to the second stage, two ghostly figures greet you. They say that Mickey's friends are at the other end of the jungle, and they give you the second unlockable outfit of the game, the Safari outfit, which allows Mickey or Minnie to latch onto branches, walls, and those floating Mickey circles that are just conveniently placed for game design purposes, and nothing else. The Safari outfit is definitely the most satisfying outfit to wear and use in the game, and it's much better than the climbing gear outfit you get in the first game. While the climbing gear outfit's hook feature requires you to press the Y button, the Safari outfit's main feature doesn't require you to do so. You just have to place Mickey in the right place and he'll instantly latch onto anything. The downside to the Safari outfit is that it doesn't let you grab onto enemies, even when you've jumped on them and made them dizzy and available for tossing against other incoming enemies. Once you get to the third stage, you are greeted once again by the two friendly ghosts, along with Pluto. Turns out that Pete's no longer an emperor of this world, but instead holds the title of Baron. This is the reason why pictures of him are found back in the circus, and why everything and everyone seems to have been acting strange lately. The two ghosts provide you with the cowboy outfit, which is the most irritating outfit to use because of the lack of control whenever you want to jump while using the outfit. You're technically already jumping all the time, but if you want to jump higher, you could either time it perfectly or fail a few times and accidentally fall off the screen. The only thing good about the cowboy outfit was its ability to shoot any enemy you come across. Other than that, and the Desperado dash ability, this outfit sucks. And this is further proven by the one segment in this stage where you're actually supposed to use the Safari outfit in order to change the gravity of the room you're in. Just imagine living a life as a tool, but instead of being used, you're put back into the toolbox, while another, more efficient tool is brought out to take your place and purpose for existing. The fourth level of this game isn't all that interesting, except for the fact that the minor boss in this stage kind of feels like a ripoff from one of the bosses in the Mega Man X series. And the fact that the actual boss you fight against in this stage is a freaking dinosaur. Insane. Completely insane. This exact moment is the equivalent of the phrase jumping the shark. It's completely bonkers, and that's why I really enjoyed playing these games. They're willing to sacrifice rationality and throw logic out of the window to make a segment of the game feel so cohesive with the elements found within it. Of course there'd be a live dinosaur inside this cave. There are dinosaur bones seen in the walls and dinosaur bones acting as bridges that you need to cross. It's honestly amazing that I didn't expect the boss of this stage to be an actual brontosaurus. Absolutely freaking amazing. The 5th level is the quickest and least interesting of all the levels, so let's just skip this one and move on to the final stage. The final stage is Baron Pete's castle. At this point, it's evident that this game series knows that it's basically taking tropes from some of the popular video game franchises, such as Mega Man, Super Mario, and a little bit of Zelda as well. But the developers do it in such a fancy way that these classic video game tropes are given a different kind of taste or feel to them. And in the process, they make these tropes their own, unapologetically so, but uniquely their own all the same. As you reach the final boss room, you are greeted by Baron Pete, who's wearing a slightly different robe and horned crown and is facing the camera this time around, rather than facing you head on. Once you deal enough damage, Baron Pete transforms into a red dragon, while still maintaining the same facial features as his normal state of being. And once you defeat his dragon form, the camera pans to the next room, revealing a purple orb. Pete's essence goes into the orb, and Mickey holds the orb up. Minnie, Pluto, and the two ghosts appear to congratulate him for defeating Baron Pete. And Mickey asks Pluto if he'd like a game of catch, a nod to the very beginning of the first game in this series. As Mickey throws the orb out into the far distance, the sky clears, and he and Minnie enjoy the scenery from the castle's balcony. The background fades to black, and they are once again back into the bus they arrived in at the very beginning of the game. When this happened, I had wondered if it would be another attempt to pull a "it was all a dream" trick on us for the second time, but that's apparently not the case, since in the following scene, we are presented with a clear indication that the things that happened in the story of the game are actually real. The ghosts are there with them, and instead of them being greeted by a hollow circus, the circus is lively and filled with joy and laughter. A proper ending to the game. But that ending only provides more questions to the ending of the first game, since it is clear that Pete actually holds malevolent power within him in this series. Are we to assume that he was also the reason for the events of the first game? Instead of the wise old sage, is he the one who's been pulling the strings all along? Is he the one that gave Mickey those dreams and has sent him on an infinite time loop? I'm mentioning this again now because in the beginning of the second game, Mickey tells Minnie that he's glad that he didn't oversleep this time around, which is a clear nod to the first game, since he was basically asleep that whole time. Is it safe to assume that in between those two games, Mickey was able to find a way to escape the infinite time loop? If we're to assume this, then the events of the second game is a revenge plot of Pete to Mickey and his friends. To him, Mickey is not allowed to have any sort of fun in this world. There has to be a way to defeat this little mouse. But how? We enter the third and final game in this series. Disney's Magical Quest 3 starring Mickey and Donald. This game starts out much like how the first two games did. Huey, Dewey, and Louie find a book with strange magical powers, and they get sucked into the world of the book, trapping them there until somebody rescues them. Mickey and Donald find the same book, and a blue-dressed fairy greets them, saying that the three boys are inside of the book, and that King Pete was the one who did it. Pete is no longer an emperor nor a baron in this game, but a king, who still rules over the land, but this time, it's neither inside of a dream or a circus. The whole game takes place inside of the story of a book, more specifically, Storybook Land. You either enter as both Mickey or Donald, and as you progress through the stages, you are given 3 outfits that will help you in your journey. Unlike the second game, whichever available character you choose, you are presented with a varying set of outfits. At least, it varies for the available first outfit in the game. The other two have no variations depending on who wears them. Mickey's first outfit is a medieval knight armor that gives him the ability to punch enemies with a rubber glove. Donald's first outfit is a wooden barrel, with a hammer that he could use to pounce around enemies with. The barrel acts as a floating device for Donald, while the knight armor lets Mickey sink because of its weight. The second outfit is a lumberjack climbing gear, given by, you guessed it, one of the lumberjack climbing kids found in the wooden house. Similar to the wise old sage's house seen in the first game, this outfit allows the player to climb trees, grab and spin Mickey blocks or enemies, and zipline through descending vines or wires. The third and final outfit of this game is a magician's outfit, which grants both Mickey and Donald the ability to cast spells that could find certain secret areas or avoid hidden traps. the stages of this game aren't that interesting really. You go through one strange land to the next. Nothing really stands out in the world of Storybook Land, except for the Yeti monster you get to fight in the Snow Mountain stage. The sprite design on that one was quite cool. Honestly, half of the mini bosses from the second game and the bosses in the third game all really remind me of the Mega Man X bosses. Maybe it's because these 3 Disney games were developed by Capcom or whatever that made the feel of these bosses remotely familiar to me. Once you get to the final boss, the final battle against King Pete, he's now back to facing sideways as he battles against you with his magical powers. This time around, his powers conveniently match the outfits you get in the game. Like in his first trial, where he summons a log from above so that you can climb it and hit him in the head, or the snake lance and shield he wears once you've dealt him a good amount of damage from the first trial, equally matches the medieval knight armor you get in the first stage of the game. It's just weird that they didn't make a third trial on this last game. Sure, you could count the wizard mini-boss that you fight before King Pete as the first trial, and King Pete being the second and third, but come on, I would have loved to have had a bit more challenge on this last game's final boss. Once you defeat King Pete, he surrenders, feeling guilty to have caused so much chaos in Storybook Land. He says that he'll be changing his ways, and the blue-dressed fairy congratulates you for defeating King Pete. You go back to the real world, which the fairy later corrects herself, saying that you'll instead be going back to the outside world. This alludes to the fact that the world outside of the book is indeed not the real world itself, but that of the world inhabited by Mickey and his friends. Mickey and Donald, together with Huey, Dewey, and Louie, escape the magical book, and Minnie and Daisy are there looking at them, saying that they've dozed off reading the storybook. This is another clear nod to the events of the first game. It's sort of a total recall kind of situation, wherein you're never really sure if the events that unfolded in front of you were real or not. The question is, does that really matter for these fictional characters? They themselves are made of fiction, so each of their wonderful journeys, regardless of if they happen in a dream or the inside of a book, are just as equally real to them because they were able to feel something spectacular while they were in them. That in itself is the true purpose of an adventure, the true meaning of a magical quest. Those are all the things I discovered while playing these 3 games. I guess I understand now why they never really thought of making more sequels, because the third game gives us a direct ending to the story arc. Pete is now a peace protector rather than an emperor or a baron or a king, and Mickey and his friends are all having a good time with each other, either playing a game of catch, go to the circus, or reading amazing fantasy books to pass the time. And if we know anything, it is that these characters have stood the test of time and will do so in the next couple of centuries and more, almost as if they themselves are stuck in an infinite time loop. Disney's Magical Quest is a platform game trilogy released by Capcom from 1992 to 1995.